Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back, everybody. There are many different types of relationships. And when we talk about intimacy in a relationship, right away you have a certain picture. I'm sure you're thinking physical here, but there's also emotional intimacy involved in many close relationships. And that's what we're going to center on today. We may get physical. We'll let you know. It may come later.
Physical.
And now you're going to test me on another song that was a #1 song by Olivia Newton-John in 1980.
Yeah.
She was wearing leg warmers.
Not one of the best songs, but
Yeah.
let's get animal.
Well, you know what? It started a craze of leg warmers and workout gear. I'm guessing she's not wearing leg warmers. How would I know? She's Allison Cowan, and she's an amazing life coach to move your life forward with purposeful pathways, lifecoaching.com. Welcome. How are you doing today?
I am doing well. Thank you for asking. And yourself?
Yeah, doing great. On this one, we broadcast and record depending on when you're seeing this. It is I call it Friday Eve, the day before, and so get ready for the weekend. So let's define that. Let me hear, coming from a life coach, how you define emotional intimacy.
Emotional intimacy is the ability to be vulnerable with your partner, significant other, whoever you're in a relationship with, and allowing that vulnerability to happen and feel safe within that intimacy, that closeness, that heart to heart. And it's not always easy because people do get intimacy. Their first reaction is physical intimacy.
Yep. Yeah.
And, without the emotional intimacy, can there really be true physical intimacy, or does it just become sex?
Okay. Let me think about that. I'm going to process that.
Sure.
I'm going to say, yeah, that's all there is, or that's all that is. Because if there is true emotional intimacy, it takes it layers deeper in terms of the physical part, for sure. And that's not to say that something physical without that deeper emotional intimacy isn't okay, but it's not the same. It's
right.
It's not the same. It's call it a one-off here and there, but it's not the, and sometimes there's not things shared because you don't open up to that person. And if you were to share certain things you like, etc., that could make it even that much better. So how do you know when you've hit a level of emotional intimacy where it's as open as it can get? Does it feel like you have no secrets? You just let it all out?
I think it's sometimes letting it all out is fine. Sometimes letting it all out, there are times it's like, is that going to affect the intimate relationship? But it's about being vulnerable and being able to depend on your partner to accept that vulnerability and that close connection where you are you're dependent on it. There's an interdependency.
Mm.
It's not a codependency, but an interdependency. And just feeling connected.
And I also think it's, you want to know those things from the other person. Like, you look forward to them telling you about their struggles, about their things they celebrate, even if it's very personal things, you know?
Yes.
Um, yeah, I'm kind of goofy and silly like that, even if it's the most bizarre thing. Like, I have a running joke with somebody that, I love garlic. So, like, I put garlic on something and I'll send a picture of it. It's like, oh, heaven. But it's kind of a side of me, I'm showing a side, just one, but then layers deeper, you know, and you want to hear from the other person as well, what they're feeling, what they're into, what they like, what they're challenged by in a given day or moment. I think it's the both, the give and the take, and you want both of those.
Yeah. And so I'm curious when you hear the word vulnerability, what does that mean to you?
I've opened myself up. And my analogy I always use is um, power windows on a car, where a lot of times we have the window up, sometimes not all the way up, depending on the relationship. And then when you're fully vulnerable, windows all the way down.
Hmm. Lovely metaphor. Lovely metaphor.
And I've said it before to people in relationships I've been with, that lower the window a little bit more. Don't worry. Um, but there are some you might be in relationships with, and you know what? It doesn't even have to be a close relationship. You may share some things with them whereby the window is just a little bit cracked open from the top, and that's good for that relationship. That's all good.
Mhm.
Could even be a professional relationship where you share some personal stuff and you've taken the window down a little bit, but you never, with that type of relationship, you're never going to go all the way down and let it all out.
I have some great friends, for example,
Hmm.
and nothing, some of my girlfriends,
Sure.
nothing sexual. Um, and yet can speak to each other on such an intimate level that connectedness is brings so much satisfaction
Yeah. Yep.
because you're heard, you're accepted,
And you're unfiltered.
and you're loved in spite of whatever you might be saying
Yeah.
or expressing
Yeah.
or wanting or needing.
For sure. Yeah. I think it's in a different level for women than for guys, but I will say the guys I grew up with, and actually coincidentally, one of them is flying in as we speak, from down south. He hasn't been back home, call it, where I am in the New York area, in 20 years. And we're all getting together
Wow.
this weekend, St. Patrick's weekend. We're going to do like stuff
Yeah.
we did back in
Yeah.
the day, but they pretty much know, all of my life. I know their life. I know one of the guy that's flying up here had some recent changes, which we're all going to be talking about. But again, just, we don't hide anything. I think it's for women, I think it's a little bit sometimes deeper emotionally, in relationships than guys, and guys, talking with their friends, but it's still there. It's still that level of the no judgment zone whatsoever. You don't really care about it.
Yeah. And um and I think I I'm wondering, when you say that, what I'm curious what makes you think men have a harder time with emotional intimacy.
Um, hanging with other guys, close guy friends, or women, or
Um,
their partner.
yeah, let's go with a partner.
Okay. All right, sure. Um,
Because I want, I sometimes wonder, how, I don't know what, friendships with men,
mm,
you know,
yeah,
I have great men friends that I feel like there's emotional intimacy, yet it's not sexual.
sure.
But male to male, um, I'm curious, like you're saying, it's a
You
little.
know what? We probably share the same stuff with our friends. We probably do. I don't know. When it comes to guys in emotional intimacy with their partner, um, I think guys have to look like they're strong, think that they need to. Um, but I'm gonna say this, and this is just the way I feel. I'm not a typical guy. I don't think I am. I think I go, some layers deeper. I do. I mean,
You're
and
very sensitive. You are a very
I
sensitive
am,
person.
and I even, you know, somebody who I'm with, that conversation even came up, and I'm like, I'll even say in a text, mush alert, and I'll say something mushy, and she admitted that she's kind of not that way. She's, the window's coming down a little bit, but she's not like that. And she even admitted in other relationships, she's not so much like that. So it's a little bit of a, little off balance there once you get to, kind of figure it out. So that was a hard one for me to answer. I don't know, because
Well, it sounds like with this person that you're talking about, there's something uncomfortable or some fear about becoming vulnerable. And oftentimes people see vulnerability as a weakness
mm,
instead of a strength.
yeah, yeah. Uh, and I can understand, not to get into the dynamics, but I can understand why she would be, she'd have her window up a little bit more at the moment. I get it. However, she did admit in the past, she was kind of like that as well. Maybe she's a little bit more guarded now, and I totally understand because of a situation previously. But if you went back, say 10 years ago ish, whatever, she still admitted that she's still, others had said to her, how come you're not a little more, uh, call it mushy or, a little more open. But it's like, I'm aware of it. So it's like, I need to, work with that. And it is what it is. Um,
It
but yeah,
kind of goes back to what we talked about. I don't remember, we've talked about so many things, but it also then goes back to trust,
hmm.
doesn't it?
Yep.
If
Yeah.
you can't trust another person, how can you possibly share intimate emotions?
I think you hit the nail on the head there. That is the foundation. You have to have full trust. Um, and it can even be just trust knowing that that person is always going to be there. Even if it's a relatively newer relationship, before you can put the window down all the way, you got to feel that, they're not disappearing. They're in for a while, whatever that while is going to be. But yeah, it's the trust is I think that's it. I think that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. And, you know, being able to talk about things with your whomever, um, and you feel accepted in spite of your weaknesses,
Hmm.
or, you know, the other person isn't necessarily trying to fix you.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
acceptance of who you are. And that I think is where the trust comes in, so that you can become emotionally intimate.
Yeah. And also, isn't it, or doesn't it have to be a level of trust that when you tell them something, you're going to feel comfortable? Like if I were to share something with you and you react in a certain way, I might not share something in the future. But if you accept it, whatever it might be, a secret or a feeling that you have, and the other person's like, yeah, that's fine. You talk about it a little bit more, and that's that. And now you purged and you're good. You have to be able to know you can trust that person, that it's going to be okay.
Right. Right. And I know we always go into a little role play, but it would be, you know, even though, friendship level, um, my being able to say, um, how much I appreciate the openness that we have in our conversations. That's intimacy.
Yeah.
Being able to say something like that and knowing that it's okay. And, you know, like I trust that you can accept that and hear that and not be like when you were talking about the window, not putting that window up, but that window's down and it's like, oh, okay. Um,
Yeah. Well, I trust that I could be able to say that to you, because you could have turned around and said, "What are you talking about?" I'd be like, nothing. Forget what you just
oh,
heard.
no,
That
no,
was
no, no, no,
nothing.
no,
That was
yeah, yeah,
nothing.
yeah.
But I feel safe in sharing that analogy, because that is how I express it. That's how I see it. That's my visual. That's how I feel it. Um, and I get that, I feel, and vulnerability is also feeling safe. So I feel safe in saying something like that to you, that you'll see, oh, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. You don't have to agree, but you can not judge and accept it for what it is. And that's just one example. It could be anything, you know.
And then there's the conversation that can come from that, which deepens the intimacy.
Hmm. Yeah. So question, what if you're at a point where you just don't feel like you can be emotionally intimate with somebody, or you feel that you've gotten to, go back to the window, you've gotten the window down here, this is all the way down, and you just never feel that you can, really truly open up to that person. Or maybe you used to be able to, but for whatever reason, now, window came up a little bit. How do you get past that?
I think first, um, there are times that we just maybe don't feel like being intimate.
Sure.
Um, Maybe tired or, other things on your mind.
It
So
happens.
sometimes it's like, I like this isn't the right time, or so it doesn't mean like it has to be this constant, you know.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Sometimes you just don't feel like opening up, or you're just like, man, I'm not, that happens. That's life. Sure. Absolutely.
and then, when intimate, if like you feel like it starts to get lost.
That's where I'm going. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Um, have the conversation. Again, we go often back to trust and communication.
Mm,
So if you feel like there's some drifting apart with intimacy, have the conversation. Um, you know, I I have been feeling that it's been difficult to speak with you on an intimate level and, you know, tell me your thoughts about that.
yeah. I don't feel that I can share things with you like we used to. And yeah, I think it also comes down to,
Yeah, I know we automatically want to go into role play, and I love it, but I think it's a
no,
great thing.
but
Um,
we're, a lot of
'Cause I
people are,
love what you just said. I love what you just said. I
what did
don't
I say?
I don't feel like I can be as intimate with you as we used to be, or
Right.
something along
Yeah.
those.
Because that's usually what happens. And maybe if we sub the word out intimate, in
So,
more common language, open. I can't be
so
open and tell you my feelings like I used to, and why is that? Sometimes I feel you're kind of closed and I can't, you know, that you're not receiving what I'm saying. And you're right. It comes down to communication, but it's also trust.
so I would, if I were responding in a role play, I might ask, well, what is it that I'm doing or not doing that is making you want to push away?
All different reasons. And it could be, let's say, all you do is pick on the negative things. And I close down a little bit and I feel that I can't be open, which, and, this is from past relationships, but I think it's kind of it happens a lot. That could be the dialogue between the two.
Yeah. So, I'm hearing that I've been somewhat dismissive and negative with the things that you're saying. And um, what can we do to solve this?
For a guy, I think that puts his back up against the wall because he's a fixer. Guys are wired to fix. So now you're up against, I got to fix this. How am I going to fix this? I don't know how to fix this. I got to think. Sometimes guys don't have the tools to figure it out and fix it. But it comes back to the same thing, trust. Because why don't you not open up to somebody? And you said it before, and it's so spot on. You don't feel that you can trust that person to share your feelings with them and trust that they'll accept it and not judge you and all of that. But trust is the big one there. It's right.
Yeah.
We're right back to it again. And once
Yeah.
there's a reason to not trust, it's like the snowball down the hill. It just keeps getting bigger. What it is, like up, another reason up, another reason up.
And I can turn around and say, thank you so much for sharing that with me. Now, I didn't even realize that I was being dismissive and negative. And, I appreciate that you're sharing that with me. What to you would have you feeling, what can I do to help you to want to, trust again, or
Right.
ask the question again, or have that,
And everybody's different. Everybody has a different love language. Every relationship is different. Somebody may say, I just want to be appreciated. I want to know that you care. You don't say it anymore. All of that, every situation is different. And we literally have seconds left. But one thing that
okay.
pops in
But
my mind too.
I just love that. So you don't share things as much anymore.
Yeah.
Again, thank you. I'm gonna work on that because our relationship matters.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes people become so codependent that they're afraid to even say anything because they don't want to rock the boat and they don't want to deal with it, or,
Yeah.
that's another, that's for you to figure out. You're the life coach.
And it is.
Uh,
It's different. It is different for everyone because
yeah.
everyone has their different issues, their different beliefs, their
Yeah.
different,
Yeah.
you
And
know,
and things crop up along the way in life that's, what was something 10 years ago, this has now changed into this. because we're all evolving at the same time. So it's complicated, but that's why you do what you do. Purposeful
And people
pathways.
and people need different levels of intimacy. Some people don't, it's not like a need for them as much as it might be for another person. So if you're in a partnership or a friendship or whatever, and one person has a strong need for intimacy and the other is like, I don't need
Right.
then there's, something needs to be really examined.
Yeah. Or you need to look at how many boxes are checked. And if all the other boxes are checked and the intimacy one is half checked, then you got to weigh it all out together, because they make me laugh. I have fun with them. I can share things with them. Maybe they don't share too much back in some regards, so maybe that's an issue, but all the other boxes are checked. So that's okay. I'm not saying settle, but I'm saying, when you put those things into perspective, we're out of time.
Always.
I know. And mission control is going to get intimate with me in a bad way. So I want to,
and you know what? And they can call and yell at me too, because
no, I take full responsibility. Allison, always great talking with you.
We had a little bit of trouble with the volume, so that took a little bit of time.
Yeah. No worries.
Sorry, mission control.
Yeah, it's all good. Purposefulpathwayslifecoaching.com is your website. Always interesting when we start talking and going down the road there, because you never know where the road takes us. But you said trust and intimate, emotional intimacy. And it's so true. It's so true. You have to have that trust before you have it. And in all different levels of trust and layers of trust. But look forward next time we get a chance to get together.
I know, same here.
All right. Great talking with you, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.